and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be going over the next Insidious movie, Insidious Chapter 2. So this is the second installment into the franchise, and it is definitely one of my favorites. It's one of my favorite paranormal movies and scary movies of like all time. I remember the first one was such an independent thing, and it was word of mouth, and all of the buzz that was happening was really, crazy, and it got everybody into it. But Chapter 2 was huge for me. I remember seeing the trailer and being like in awe, and knowing that the budget of the trailer looked bigger than the whole first movie. I was so excited to see this in theaters, and it was amazing. It was breathtaking, it was chilling. I couldn't have asked for a more perfect theater experience when experiencing this movie for the first time. I went with one of my very best friends at the time, and we just had a very special thing going on, and yeah, I'll always remember it. It's a very special moment for me personally. So Insidious Chapter 2 deals with the death of Elise, and it continues the story of what happens for the Lambert family, seconds after what had happened to them that night before. And it's talking about how the ghosts that are still after them are after their children, and we finally see what's happening with Josh, who we figure out at the end of the first movie has been swapped places with the evil old witch. I think this is a perfect example of a sequel that's bigger, badder, and better. And with all of that being said, let's get right into Insidious Chapter 2. Now this opening is by far so amazing. I think it's gotta be my favorite opening of the entire franchise. The flashback of Elise and Lorraine and Josh all when they're younger, it puts everything into perspective for me, and I love seeing the time jump and knowing the history behind the first movie, and we understand why Josh is going through what he is now. And it was so scary, and hearing about the witch that was in his closet and having them be in that house that was so beautiful and old and eerie. It was like a perfect location, and we are there now in present day. So we pick up literally hours after the events of the first movie, and Lorraine is in the police station telling what happens, and there's a flashback. And I love when movies do this. They pick up at the exact frame that the first one left off on, because what happened, it was such a great cliffhanger ending, and it was so thrilling and scary. You had no idea what was going to happen to her. You felt so just uneasy knowing that he's in there after them. So we're coming home now because the marks on Elise's neck were put there by demon hands and not Josh's, so the police aren't able to coordinate what's going on. What I really love about this movie is the house. I love the cinematography of it and the set decoration, the dressing of the set. Whoever made this house look this way or picked this house and did the location scouting, it is brilliant. I love everything about it. The feel, and it feels like the next step in the story. It feels like a natural progression of where they would be, what they would go, what they would do. And so while they're staying there, Lorraine and Renee are starting to notice some apparitional things happening around the house, leading up to believe that Josh may not be who he says he is. This one's story is so intricate, and I love the way it builds off of the first one. Dalton is still having his fits of astral projection, and he's getting lost at night, and we have several scary scenes where that's happening. And I really love how he's at night hearing the whispers of the ghosts, and he's hearing his dad talking to someone. He knows that something's wrong, and he's kind of the one that's letting his mom in on it, hey, I'm not sure if this is over yet. Another one of my favorite parts is when he's sleeping and he says, "Grandma, there's someone standing right behind you." And we meet Parker Crane's mother for the first time, but we don't know who that's. It's just this random ghost lady walking throughout the house, and it's terrifying. I remember just being in awe of learning all of the secrets to this movie. I think it's very sad having Specs and Tucker being at the position where they're, because they live with Elise and they're at the house, and it's a hard thing to move on now that she's gone, but obviously there's this part of her that's still resonating there and staying with them, and she's kind of on their side a little bit. You can tell that her essence is there, trying to help guide them throughout a little bit, and they need to call in her friend Carl, who was in the beginning. Now, because Lorraine had that whole experience of seeing the woman in her house, she didn't know what to do, so she calls Carl. And it's been so many years since everything went, wrong for them. that they're all old now, and it's kind of sad to see like how many years have passed. I like that they bring him in. He is a good character. He feels close to Elise. I like the connection, the setup that they did at the beginning to make us feel more tied to him, so he feels a part of the story. He actually does. I really enjoy him being around. It's a good addition to the sequel. Man, I just remember all of like the backstories and stuff of Lorraine working at the hospital and figuring out that the woman in black was actually Parker Crane, and they had no idea because he was there at the hospital and he grabbed a hold of Josh whenever he was younger, and that kind of like tethered him to his soul or whatever. And going to the place after the hospital where it's Parker Crane's house and learning the secrets and the discovery of where all the dead bodies are, and Specs and Tucker, and they're all there figuring out that Parker Crane is actually the woman in black, the bride in black, who we think is like the old witch lady, and that has been haunting Josh his entire life. And it turns out that it wasn't a woman, it's a man. And that's what the scariest part about it is the gender confusion, and you would believe that it's an old woman, and that's part of his disguise, is dressing up in that veil and that dress and the wig and looking like an older woman. That way, if a victim ever escaped, they would be describing a woman in a black wedding gown dress and not, an old patient man who's sick. There's also that scene whenever Parker Crane's mother is terrifying Renee in the main part of the house and the baby stroller comes around. And that is such an intense scene. It builds tension and suspense, and it pays off, and it's scary, and the music is loud, and you don't know what's gonna happen with the baby as she's running up and down the stairs, and objects are just flying, and then the woman appears and smacks the fuck out of her, knocks her out. The parts of this, whenever we are in the further, is so amazing. It's so well done. I love how we figure out slowly that we start to see Josh in the astral plane, and oh my goodness, the part in the first movie where the door is banging through, we realize in this movie that it was actually Josh in the time paradox thing trying to save his own daughter from one of the ghosts that was in his house at the time. And I don't think that was planned whenever they did the first one. It's an amazing, brilliant way to connect that. I mean, whoever had that idea, you know? And they didn't even really need to do that or explain that because it was so scary just the way it was in the first one. But bringing it around like that just adds a special, like, factor. It really just made it that much better for me. Dealing with Parker Crane and his mother in the astral plane is so very scary. We're in his house and we're getting to the part where we're seeing the secrets of how he had his childhood stolen from him, and that's why he had always wanted Josh's life, because his mom wanted a girl and she abused him and she forced him to do these things and then to kill and all of this other stuff, and pretty much abused and ruined him. That part of the story made it that much more realistic. I like the family aspect, the trauma, it's more than just ghosts going boo and people going ah. Like there's a reason behind it, and I really buy into it. It's just it's more of a drama, really. I mean, it's a family drama. I mean, look at what these people are going through, and they're just trying to get back to each other and stay wholesome and loved and with each other through it all and protect each other. And that's all they want at the end of the day. They just want to be free and happy. Of course, these entities don't like that. They feed off of negative energy, and that's why they're around, and they're keeping this family, they're kicking them while they're down to keep them weak so that they can keep preying off of them. Seeing Elise return was so amazing. I mean, we pretty much knew that she was going to come back for the sequel, because how could she not? And also it was in the trailer, but like, yeah, I mean, when she was killed off at the first one, there was a split second where it's like, what now, you know? But having her come back and be in the further and say that she's in a better place and she only came back to help, it's a good way of wrapping up her character, and making her feel at ease, and that we're okay with her passing and knowing that she's in a good place. She comes back to help destroy Parker Crane and his mother, and Josh is fighting them off, and he's getting countered by her, and the room goes dark, and then all of the bodies that are standing there, and he doesn't know which one's which, and he's trying to figure out who is who. And this is really very important, because at the same time, Lorraine and Renee figured out what was going on with Josh, and so when they're on their way back home, they confront him about like, hey, was my friend Carl ever here? And he drops his die after saying no. And they can tell that something's immediately wrong with him, and his face is gray and changed, and he looks like he's deteriorating, and he runs after them, and he's chasing them. I remember sitting in the theater, like, with my jaw dropped, like, it was so, I say this a lot, intense and scary, and I was on the edge of my seat, and I wanted to know what happened, and it keeps your attention, and it ups things. It's a very fast-paced ending, and I like it. It feels so well. It feels exactly like what you want, everything that's happening. You're like, yes, yes, oh my goodness. I mean, where are they gonna go from here, and how are they gonna get out of this? The attack scenes are so brutal, the way that they're beating each other down in the kitchen, and then it happens in front of the children whenever Renee's being choked out, and we get the flashes of the bride in black, right whenever Dalton shows up and hits him with the bat. Thank goodness. He saved his mother's life. He literally walked in and saved the day, and watching her struggle to save her babies, her children, keep them protected, and knowing that they're in danger going down the stairs and being chased after like that. It was so viciously sad and scary, knowing that this might be the end for her. I mean, what if they don't succeed? What if Parker Crane kills them before they get a chance to save themselves or get help? And the astral plane is going on whenever he's getting attacked by Parker Crane's mother, and she's choking him, and he doesn't know what to do. And at the same time, real life Josh's vessel, his human body, is attacking Renee and the kids, and he's breaking into the basement, and she's defending them, and they're like pushing the hammers and the wrenches and the shelves onto each other and stuff. And right when he's thrown her down and he's about to attack Dalton, he had went into the further to go and find his dad. And right whenever Elise destroys Parker Crane's mother and gets rid of everything, sends the souls back, sends her to hell, sets Parker Crane's soul free, it just made everything seem so heartwarming, and the world is deteriorating and they have to get out of there. And we realize that Carl's alive, and that's such a good news to hear. And they both come to, and Renee is hesitant at first, and then he says, I was trying to play your song. I tried so hard, and I teared up, and it was so good, and it was so emotional, and then she says, only you could have played it that badly, I should have known, like, and it just, everything ties up so well, and it is so perfect, and I'm really happy that they got to have their character development, their changes, and then achieve what they wanted to in the end, which was their family being united and no more hauntings. So they're suppressing the memories as we go to the ending scene, and it's this girl named Allison. And Specs and Tucker show up on the doorstep to help and offer their services, and Elise is there spiritually, and as she's trying to talk to Allison, she's trying to reach out to her as they're explaining, when her accident happened, it wasn't an accident. And when they rescued her from the hospital, something else came back with her. And Elise goes, Allison. And it ends. And I love these first two movies. They're so good. These cliffhanger endings, the way that they have having the gasp is everything. So yeah, that was my review for Insidious Chapter 2. I would give this like a 10 out of 10, a 5 out of 5, whatever you want to call it, whatever your rating system is. I do enjoy this one more than the first one, and it is just as scary to me. There are parts of the first one that are a little scarier to me though because of the demon aspect, and that's just gut-wrenchingly terrifying. But yes, I can't wait to do Insidious Chapter 3 very soon. There's a part of me that really wishes they would have continued the story, and I do like what they did with parts 3 and 4, and I'm happy to have as many movies in this series as possible. I love the content, and I also have hope that maybe Insidious Chapter 5 they will pick up after this, because this is the furthest in the timeline that we've ever discovered from them. So let me know down in the comments what you thought about these movies, if you like them. What were your thoughts about 3 and how they went back to be as a prequel? And did you think that Insidious Chapter 2 lived up to the first one? Or was it better? Was it bigger? Was it badder, like how I say? This is my DVD that I have in my collection. It is the red case cover version. There are several versions of the DVD cover art, but I had liked this one the best. This is the most terrifying movie of the year. It'll take what you love most. Obviously, I love DVDs, adding them to my collection, and I love the artwork on the back. This was super important to me to have, and I loved watching it over and over and over again whenever I was younger. Definitely meant a lot. So yeah, be sure to stick around and check out some of my other videos. I've done a bunch of different genres and I plan to do a bunch of different more. And be sure to stick around and check back for whenever I post something new. Alright, thanks for watching. Bye!